Technical terms exist for a reason. Clarity saves lives, and you can't run an oil rig on euphemisms. Be me, 45 years old, offshore installation manager for major energy company, running drilling operations on semi-submersible rig in North Sea. Platform is called Atlas Endeavor, worth $650 million in assets. Crew of 140 people, day rate of $400,000, drilling high-pressure wells. Making $195,000 salary managing one of the most complex operations in the industry. Been in oil and gas for 22 years, started as roustabout, worked every position. Understand the equipment, understand the people, understand the risks. Company just completed $85 million contract with major oil consortium. Multi-year drilling program, tight margins, high expectations. Everything running smoothly until corporate sends new hire. Director of Safety Culture and Inclusive Operations. About to watch her ban technical terminology that's been used for 100 years. Then watch my entire drill crew walk off the rig. 2 hours before critical equipment failure. Leaving skeleton crew that can't communicate effectively. Rig forced to emergency shutdown, $85 million contract canceled. All because someone thought drilling terms were offensive. Let me show you what happens when ideology meets industrial reality. January 2024, operations are going well on Atlas Endeavor. We're in middle of North Sea, 120 miles from nearest land. Drilling wells for consortium that includes 3 major oil companies. Contract is complex, performance-based, penalties for delays. But bonuses for staying on schedule and maintaining safety record. My rig has best safety record in the fleet, 0 lost time incidents. Crew is experienced. Most have been offshore for 10+ years. Communication is efficient. Everyone knows the terminology. Senior driller is guy named Frank, 48 years old, industry veteran. Been drilling since he was 20, knows every piece of equipment. Can diagnose problems by sound, feel pressure changes before gauges show them. He's critical to operations, trains younger crew, maintains standards. Makes $135,000 as senior driller, respected by everyone on rig. Late January, get email from corporate headquarters. New initiative to modernize safety culture and communication standards. Director of Safety Culture will be joining your crew for assessment and implementation. Sounds like typical corporate program, probably some new paperwork. Figure I'll cooperate. Check the boxes, continue operations. February 2024, helicopter arrives with new safety director. Woman named Lauren, 38 years old, comes from corporate safety department. Background in industrial psychology, master's degree, very professional. Making $145,000 to oversee safety culture across offshore operations. She's wearing brand new coveralls, spotless hard hat, safety glasses. Everything fresh from the supply catalog. Hasn't been on rig before. I greet her. Welcome to Atlas Endeavor. We're running smooth operations. Thank you. I'm here to conduct comprehensive safety culture assessment. We'll be reviewing communication protocols and workplace environment. First day, she's shadowing operations, observing crew, taking notes. Sitting in drill shack, listening to radio communications. Watching crew work on drill floor, assembling pipe, running operations. Evening briefing. She presents initial observations. I've identified concerning patterns in communication. The terminology used in drilling operations is problematic. Many terms are inherently exclusionary and potentially offensive. I'm confused. What terms are you referring to? Terms like male and female connectors, master and slave cylinders. Those are standard industry terminology for equipment components. They're gendered and hierarchical. They create uncomfortable environment. Their technical specifications been used for decades. That doesn't make them appropriate for modern workplace. Frank, my senior driller, is in this meeting. Those terms are in all the manuals, all the training materials. We need to update our standards, align with inclusive practices. How do I call out a connection type over radio in Storm if I can't use standard terms? We'll develop alternative terminology that's both clear and respectful. I can see Frank is skeptical, but he's professional, doesn't argue. After meeting, he pulls me aside. Boss, this is going to cause problems. We can't change technical terminology that everyone in industry uses. It's just words. Frank, we can adapt. Words matter in communication, especially in emergencies. Let's give our program a chance. Corporate is pushing this. Week 2, Lauren presents her inclusive communication protocol. She's created lists of banned terms and approved alternatives. Banned, male connector / approved, external coupling interface. Banned, female connector / approved, internal receiving port. Banned, master cylinder / approved, primary control unit. Banned, slave cylinder / approved, secondary response unit. Also banning various slang terms crew uses for efficiency. Can't say stabbing pipe, must say connecting drill string sections. Can't say kill the well, must say secure the wellbore. Can't say nipple up, must say install the coupling assembly. List goes on, covers dozens of standard drilling terms. These changes will be mandatory effective immediately. All crew must use approved terminology in radio communications. Violations will be documented and addressed through progressive discipline. Frank raises his hand. This is going to slow down communication. Clarity and respect are more important than speed. Speed matters when we're managing high-pressure situations. If the communication is clear, speed will follow. Other crew members are looking at each other, clearly concerned. But nobody wants to be the one arguing against inclusive policy. I'm thinking this is harmless, just corporate initiative we'll adapt to. Let's implement the new protocol. Everyone will adjust. March 2024, new communication standards are in effect. Crew is trying to use approved terminology. It's awkward. Radio conversations that took 5 seconds now take 30 seconds. Driller trying to direct crew on drill floor. Connect the external coupling interface to the internal receiving port. Instead of make up the male to female connection, crew is pausing, processing, double-checking what's being said. Frank comes to my office. We're losing efficiency. Communication latency is increasing. People are hesitant. They're afraid of using wrong term and getting written up. It's a learning curve. They'll adapt with practice. It's not about learning. It's about cognitive load during operations. When you're cold, wet, and managing heavy equipment in weather, you can't be thinking about politically correct terminology. I dismiss his concerns. Give it more time. This is progress. Week 3, first written warning is issued. Roughneck on drill floor called out stab the pipe during connection. Lauren was monitoring radio, documented the violation. Guy gets written warning for using violent and aggressive terminology. He's confused. I've said that for 15 years. Everyone says that. The new standards are clear. You need to use approved terms. Word spreads through crew. People are nervous. Radio communications become stilted, over formal, slow. Operations are falling behind schedule by 10 to 15%. More concerning, crew is hesitating during time-sensitive operations. Frank reports, people are second-guessing themselves. Instead of acting on clear instructions, they're processing vocabulary. This is creating safety risk, not reducing it. I'm seeing the data. We're losing time, but I'm committed to program. Safety culture transformation takes time. We'll see benefits. Late March, second incident, more serious. Assistant driller got written up for saying kill line during well control procedure. Kill line is standard term for emergency pressure control system. Lauren documented it as violent terminology inappropriate for workplace. Assistant driller is frustrated. That's what it's called in every manual. We need to move away from violent language in operations. It's technical terminology, not violence. Language shapes culture. We're changing the culture. This time, Frank escalates to me privately. This is dangerous. We're policing technical language during operations. These terms exist because they're precise and universally understood. When I say kill line, everyone knows exactly what I mean. When I say emergency pressure control system, it takes longer and creates ambiguity. I'm torn. I see his point, but corporate is pushing hard on this. Frank, I need you to support this initiative. I support safety. This policy is making operations less safe. That's your opinion. Lauren's the safety expert. I'm a drilling expert. I know what makes operations safe. We're at impasse. Frank is clearly unhappy but complying under protest. Early April, Lauren proposes expanded policy. Now she wants to change equipment labels and documentation. Replace all male/female markings on physical equipment. Update all procedures manuals with new terminology. This will cost hundreds of thousands in documentation changes, plus training time, plus potential for confusion with old and new terms mixed. Frank formally objects in writing, sends email to me and corporate safety, copying rig superintendent. Proposed changes to equipment labeling and procedures will create safety hazard. Mixing old and new terminology during transition period is dangerous. Crew needs clear, consistent, industry standard communication. Request that technical terminology changes be reconsidered. Lauren responds to his email, copies everyone. Resistance to inclusive practices is concerning and will be addressed. This appears to be pattern of undermining safety culture initiatives. Recommend disciplinary review for senior driller position. She's recommending discipline for Frank for raising safety concerns. This is escalating beyond what I anticipated. Corporate safety backs Lauren, tells me to proceed with her recommendations. We're committed to modernizing safety culture across all operations. Senior leadership supports these initiatives fully. I call Frank into office. You need to get on board with this. I'm on board with safety. I'm not on board with this specific policy. Lauren is safety director. We have to follow her guidance. I'm telling you as drilling expert, this is making operations less safe. That's not the assessment corporate has made. Corporate isn't standing on drill floor managing high-pressure wells. Frank is frustrated. If something goes wrong, it's on the crew. We're the ones who have to live with consequences of bad policy. Your concerns are noted, but we're implementing the changes. He leaves office. I can tell he's reaching breaking point. But I'm committed to showing I can implement corporate initiatives. Mid-April, the breaking point arrives. We're running critical operation, installing blowout preventer system. Complex procedure requires precise coordination between multiple crew members. Frank is directing operations from drill shack. Crew on drill floor is working with heavy equipment in rough weather. Frank needs them to connect specific hydraulic lines quickly. He keys radio. Connect the male hydraulic coupling to female port on BOP. Clear, precise. Everyone knows exactly what to do. Lauren is monitoring. Immediately interrupts on radio. That's inappropriate terminology. Use approved communication protocol. Frank is managing active operation. He's focused on safety. Ignores her. Continues. Secure the connection. Verify pressure seal. Operation completes safely. Equipment is installed correctly. Afterwards, Lauren documents formal violation. Takes it to me, senior driller directly violated policy during operations. After multiple warnings and documented previous violations. She wants me to write up Frank, possibly suspend him. I'm looking at violation report at Lauren's recommendation. Then looking at operations log showing safe completion of critical procedure. What do you want me to do? He completed the operation safely. He violated established policy. There must be consequences. The policy made communication slower. He prioritized safety. He prioritized his personal preference over organizational standards. I'm feeling pressure from corporate, from Lauren, to enforce policy. Make decision I'll regret. Frank, you're written up formally. This is final warning. Next violation results in removal from rig. Frank looks at me. You're choosing policy over safety. I'm enforcing company standards. Company standards are going to get someone hurt. He walks out. I've lost his trust completely. Next day, Frank requests meeting with me and rig superintendent. Superintendent is on video call from shore base. I'm invoking my stop work authority under safety regulations. I'm declaring current communication protocols create unsafe conditions. I'm formally requesting return to industry standard terminology. This is serious. Stop work authority is legal, right in offshore operations. If senior crew member believes conditions are unsafe, they can halt work. Superintendent asks, what specific unsafe conditions? Communication latency has increased 300% during time-critical operations. Crew is hesitating and second-guessing during equipment handling. Non-standard terminology creates confusion with industry-standard procedures. I believe continuing under current protocols creates significant safety risk. Lauren responds, this is resistance to safety improvements. The actual incident data doesn't support claims of increased risk. Frank counters, we haven't had incident yet because crew is being extra careful. But the near misses are increasing, people are confused. Superintendent is caught between corporate policy and senior drillers' concerns. Let me discuss with corporate safety and get back to you. That afternoon, decision comes back. Corporate sides with Lauren, stop work request is denied. Assessment shows communication protocols are not creating safety issues. Senior drillers' concerns appear to stem from resistance to change. Continuation of operations is approved. Frank receives this decision, calls crew meeting. All drilling crew, about 30 people, meet in mess hall. I'm not invited. Find out later what was said. Frank addresses crew. Corporate has denied stop work request. I believe current communication standards are unsafe. I'm not willing to continue operations under these conditions. I'm leaving the rig on next helicopter. One by one, drilling crew agrees with him. Senior roughnecks, experienced hands, derrick men. They've all been frustrated with policy, waiting for someone to act. If Frank's leaving, we're leaving, we trust his judgment. Within 2 hours, 28 members of drilling crew have packed gear. They're exercising their right to leave based on safety concerns. This is legal. They can't be forced to work in conditions they consider unsafe. I'm informed that crew is staging at helipad waiting for transport. Rush out there. What are you doing? We have operations to complete. Frank responds, we've completed our notice. We're leaving. You can't just abandon the rig. We're not abandoning. We're exercising safety stand down. We documented unsafe communication protocols. You refuse to address them. This is insubordination. This is breach of contract. This is legal safety action. Check the regulations. Helicopter is arriving. Crew is loading gear. I'm calling corporate. Entire drill crew is leaving the rig. What? Why? What happened? They're claiming communication protocols are unsafe. Stop them. Order them to stay. They have legal right to leave if they believe conditions are unsafe. Within 3 hours, my entire experienced drilling crew is gone. Left me with skeleton crew, administrative staff, catering, maintenance. Young assistant driller who stayed because he needs the job. Lauren, who's never operated equipment. And me, who hasn't run drill operations in 10 years. Evening briefing with corporate, they're furious. You need to continue operations with available crew. We don't have qualified drilling crew. Hire replacements. Bring in contractors. That takes weeks. We have operations scheduled tomorrow. Then use remaining crew and maintain schedule. Lauren adds, the crew walkout validates that culture change was necessary. They demonstrated resistance to inclusive practices. I'm realizing this is disaster, but corporate is committed to their position. Next morning, we're supposed to run pipe, standard drilling operation. I'm directing operations myself with assistant driller and 3 roughnecks. None of them have senior crew experience. We're using Lauren's approved terminology because we have to. Communication is slow, uncertain, nobody's confident. Mid-morning, hydraulic system alarm on drilling equipment. Pressure warning on blowout preventer control system. Need to isolate the system, identify source of pressure loss. Assistant driller is trying to communicate with equipment operator. Isolate the primary control unit and check secondary response unit. Equipment operator is confused. Which unit is primary? The master cylinder. The primary control unit. Confusion is creating delay in responding to equipment issue. Meanwhile, pressure is continuing to drop. System integrity is compromised. I take over, everyone stop, shut down the system. We emergency shut down all drilling operations. Bring an equipment specialist for maintenance crew. Takes 4 hours to identify problem. Hydraulic line connection failure. The same type of connection Frank's crew installed days earlier. Different line, same system, failed due to pressure cycling. If we'd been running full operations with experienced crew, they would have caught this immediately, isolated and repaired. Instead, skeleton crew with communication problems took hours. Rig is now shut down. Can't continue operations safely. Corporate wants us to resume. I refuse. We don't have qualified crew to run operations safely. Communication protocols are creating hazards with inexperienced crew. We need to bring back experienced crew or bring in full replacement team. That takes 2 weeks to organize. 2 weeks of rig sitting idle at $400,000 per day. $5.6 million in lost operational time. Consortium that contracted the rig is furious. They're paying for drilling operations, getting nothing. Late April, replacement crew arrives, operations resume. But consortium has lost confidence in our operations. May 2024, consortium terminates contract. $85 million multi-year agreement canceled. Failure to maintain operational standards and crew stability. Unable to provide reliable drilling services as contracted. Company takes massive financial hit. $85 million in lost revenue, plus penalties for contract breach. Board demands investigation into what happened. External consultants review the incident, interview everyone. Their report is devastating for Lauren and for me. Implementation of non-standard communication protocols created operational confusion. Senior crew's safety concerns were dismissed without proper technical review. Crew walkout was legally justified safety action, not insubordination. Management failed to balance safety culture initiatives with operational requirements. June 2024, Lauren is terminated for implementing policies that contributed to operational failure and for failing to address legitimate safety concerns from experienced crew. She posts on LinkedIn about being fired for advancing inclusive safety culture. Get some support from corporate safety community. But offshore industry professionals are critical in comments. You can't change technical terminology that entire industry uses. Safety culture includes listening to experienced crew. She's blacklisted from offshore operations. Takes position at corporate safety consulting firm for $85,000. Half her previous salary, working on shore-based projects. I'm not fired immediately, but I'm reassigned. Removed as installation manager. Moved to shore-based planning role. From $195,000 rig manager to $115,000 planning coordinator. Basically demoted for failing to maintain operations. Board makes it clear, my judgment is questioned. Frank, the senior driller who walked out, is vindicated. Multiple offshore companies reach out to hire him. He takes consulting position, $185,000 plus daily rate. Working for competitor, helping them maintain proper communication standards. His reputation is enhanced. The driller who stood up for safety. Other crew members from walkout all get hired quickly. Industry respects that they prioritize safety over corporate politics. Now it's December 2025, 18 months after the incident. I'm still at planning coordinator position, making $115,000. Probably never getting rig manager role again. The Atlas Endeavor incident is case study in offshore safety courses. What happens when corporate policy conflicts with operational reality? My name is in those case studies, not in positive light. See Frank at industry conference. He's speaking on panel. Maintaining communication standards in safety culture initiatives. uses our incident as primary example. Technical terminology exists for precision and clarity. You can't sacrifice operational communication for corporate initiatives. When experienced crew raises safety concerns, listen to them. Audience is taking notes, treating this as critical lesson. I'm in back of room, hoping he doesn't see me. He sees me, nods acknowledgement, not hostile, but not friendly. After panel, I approach him. Frank, I need to apologize. I should have listened when you raised concerns. I chose corporate approval over operational safety. He's quiet for a moment. You made choice you thought was right, but you forgot that we're the ones on the rig managing the risks. When corporate makes policy, we live with consequences. I understand that now. Too late for the contract. Contract was always at risk once crew couldn't communicate effectively. Could you have supported the policy differently? I could have pushed back harder on corporate, demanded technical review before implementing terminology changes, required pilot program to test impact on operations. Instead, I just enforced policy without questioning it. Frank nods. That's the lesson. Policies need operational validation, especially policies that change fundamental communication. Walk away thinking about what I learned. Technical terminology isn't arbitrary. It evolved for reasons. Industry standard terms are standard because they work. Precision, brevity, universal understanding. Lauren thought they were offensive, missing the function. She saw words, not the communication system they enable. And I backed her because I wanted corporate approval. Wanted to show I could implement their initiatives, even when experienced crew was telling me it wouldn't work. That cost company $85 million and cost me my career trajectory. Now at 47, I'm planning coordinator making $115,000. Frank's consulting at $185,000. Lauren's at consulting firm for $85,000. 3 different outcomes from one policy decision. To change technical terms that worked for 100 years because someone thought they were problematic, without understanding why they existed, without testing impact on operations, without listening to crew who use them daily. That's what I think about in planning coordinator role. When I'm reviewing procedures from shore, not running operations. When I see technical terminology in documents, I don't see offensive words anymore. I see communication precision that keeps people safe. I see industry standards that enable global operations. I see language that evolved through decades of offshore experience. And I see what happens when you try to change it, without understanding why it matters, without validating that alternatives work, without listening to the people who depend on it. The crew walked out because they knew what corporate didn't know, and I forgot. That clear communication saves lives. And you can't run an oil rig on euphemisms, no matter how inclusive they sound, no matter how much corporate pushes them, because the equipment doesn't care about terminology. The pressure systems don't care about your policy, and the crew won't stay if they can't communicate safely. That's the lesson from Atlas Endeavor, April 2024, when we banned technical drilling terms and lost $85 million in 30 days because someone thought male connector was offensive. And I was too worried about corporate approval to tell them they were wrong.